Hello everyone, Spectre here. I have an announcement to make. After much thought and deliberation, Mira May and I decided that we are going to change the name of the Pretty Spooky podcast. Initially, when we came up with the name, we picked it because it was something that we liked and it wasn't already taken. However, in our search, we didn't find the Pretty Scary podcast, which was a bummer. And it's too similar. When you search for our name, you find their podcast. It's not fair to us. It's not fair to them. So we've decided that we are rebranding a little. We'll still be making the exact same type of content, and we will have the same schedule. But we will now be called the 13 Club Podcast. If you listen to episode 6, you'll know why. Thanks for sticking with us. I promise we're not going anywhere, just changing the name. Thanks again. Hey guys, we are here. I feel like that's so uncreative. I'm always just like, hey guys.
Hi.
Welcome to my Minecraft video. Okay, I'll try again. Hello everyone, and welcome to this special edition of the Pretty Spooky Podcast, where we are doing a film exchange. My name is Spectre.
And I'm Mira May.
Thank you for joining us.
We have been bumping this episode for like a couple of weeks now, so I hope if some of you guys are here listening to this, you watched the movies. If not, I hope this inspires you to watch the movies.
But there will be like a lot of spoilers.
You're going to get spoiled.
Yeah.
Yeah. So bear in mind as you listen, we're not going to hold back.
So, my favorite horror movie of all time is Martyrs, which is a French horror film from 2007, right?
Sometimes I saw 2007, sometimes I saw 2008. So it's one of those two. I did a little homework on it.
It's 2008. Good job.
Okay. Hey.
And your favorite horror film?
Is Suspiria, which is an Italian horror film from the 70s. And it sure shows, but I love it.
So which film do you want to start with?
Let's start with Martyrs. I can talk about Martyrs first.
Okay. So I've seen it lots of times. So you can sort of like lead the discussion, I guess.
Well, before we get into it, tell me, I'd like to know like what your first viewing experience was like, because this was my first time watching it.
All right, so my first viewing experience of this was with an ex-boyfriend.
Always a good start.
No names, but I was with an ex-boyfriend, and he was, like, really upset that we had watched that movie, and said that
it bothered him?
Yeah, he said, like, it was not the kind of thing that, like, is enjoyable to watch, and that he didn't understand why I like to watch fucked up things like that.
Well.
But, because I liked it, and he did not. And I feel like a lot of people, upon watching this, like, this movie is not for the faint of heart at all. It's not, like, you can totally say this is a torture porn film. And usually I stay away from it. Because I find torture porn in general, I guess, that's a lie. I watch all of it. I was
gonna say, I was about to call you out.
I don't stay away from it. Like, I will watch it, but I stay away from being like, hey, you guys should watch this. Right. Or, like, I'm recommending this because it's so great. Because most torture porn stuff is shocking for the sake of being shocking. And it doesn't actually have any substance to it.
Right.
And Martyrs uses that as a way to tell a story, and it's a really interesting story that I've never seen told before.
That's true. I definitely thought that after I watched it. I was like, I have never seen a story like this before. I feel like it did here and there remind me of other things, but I've never seen or read or played a game with the same kind of plot exactly, and I thought that was very cool.
Yeah. So my first viewing experience was not, like, I really liked it. Ex-boyfriend did not like it. I showed it to another boyfriend later. Mm-hmm. He also absolutely hated it.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. The movie was recommended to me by my other BFF, Jenny. Mm-hmm. And she was like, I think you'd like it. And boy, was she right.
Did she like it also?
She loves it. Yeah. It's like, we're both really big fans of the movie. And actually, I
feel like I can kind of see both of you in that.
Yes. I feel like it, in a way, is us. But also, Lucy literally looks like Jenny.
I thought that, too. And I've only seen your friend once. I've seen her in person, like, literally one time, and I thought that exact same fucking thing. So thank you for saying that, because now I know I'm not going crazy.
Yeah, she looks like Jenny. Yeah, for sure. I've told her that, and she thinks it's a huge compliment, which is fine, because they're both beautiful.
They are. They're both very pretty ladies. But no, I thought that as well, and I was like, that's weird.
Yeah, so it's sort of a special thing that I have with Jenny, and also, like, Nova loves this movie, too. So
that's cool.
I showed it to him when we first got together, and we like had a couple weeks where we just like shared our favorite films with each other, and that was like my favorite horror film. So I was like, you know, having showed it to other people before and having them hate it, I was
that
just
can be like kind of traumatizing.
Yeah.
If like,
so I was worried that at the end of the movie he wouldn't like it, but he like really, really loved it, and he thinks it's one of the best horror movies ever made.
It was better than I expected. I guess like all I knew about it beforehand was what you had told me, and then things I had heard just like from random other people. So like I made a list to myself before I watched the movie. I was like, it says like what I know beforehand, and it was. It's fucked up, ? Torture, ? Possibly banned in some places, ? And then I made a note that it's part of a, like, specific cinematic movement of, like, extremist horror that started in France and mostly took place in France, but, like, other parts of Europe as well.
We recently saw an interview with the director of the movie Raw. You've seen that?
Oh, yeah? I've heard of it, but I've never seen it.
God, you know what?
I think that's part of the same, like, thing, right?
Yes.
Like, the same movement?
It's the French new wave extreme horror. But it may... If I'm being honest with you, it may not have been that director, so I'm going to go back on that. But a director from, I feel like, a more recent... horror film from that genre, which there aren't many, he said it's not a movement because there are like 5 films, so don't call it that.
I mean, if people continue to make films like that, then I think it becomes a movement.
The thing is that there's been so few since like the first one. I think the first one was early 2000s. It may have begun with High Tension. Maybe, High Tension, I think, was the first one. Man, I should have done my research before I started this, but I want to say High Tension was the first one. Let's see.
Don't worry, I probably couldn't answer these questions about, like, Giallo, so don't worry.
So, High Tension, what year? 2003. What year's Frontiers? Frontiers was 2007. Inside is 2007. Martyrs
so
is 2008.
Sounds like 2007 and 2008 was kind of like the golden time for this kind of movie.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, I believe High Tension was the first, and then there were a few others. And then Raw was a pleasant addition because I really liked it. And
that came out somewhat recently, didn't it?
Did. I think it came out last year.
Okay.
2017, yeah. I liked it. I don't think it's as good as Martyrs, but I liked it, and it's been, like, you know, there haven't been a lot of films like it. Mm-hmm. And they're really spread out over time.
I think I saw this back when I was doing research. So back in our first main episode of the podcast, I watched a movie that you recommended called The Eyes of My Mother. Mm-hmm. And I was doing research about that, and somehow I ended up reading a bit about that movement. And I'm pretty sure they briefly mentioned the director of Martyrs. And I don't remember the article, I don't remember the interview, but it mentioned that even the director of Martyrs, similarly to your ex-boyfriend, like, even he wondered why someone would want to watch that movie. Like, mm-hmm. I got the impression that maybe, like, he also was like, why am I doing this? Which is kind of funny to me. But
right. No, I mean, that's more or less what my 2 ex-boyfriends had to say about it. Like, why am I watching this? Why would I want to watch that kind of thing?
I thought about that, and I will, like, close our discussion with this, I think. But I'll just, like, what I did, for everyone listening and for you as well, is I, like, took kind of brief bullet notes of things as I was watching it. So, I figured they would be good conversation starters. I thought, it was kind of funny, the, like, beginning of the film is shot to look like kind of Super 8-y. Mm-hmm. And I really liked that. And it was funny because coming off of another recent episode we did with the In Memoriam video game, mm-hmm. a lot of the, like, live action sequences in that game are shot and look really similar mm-hmm. to the opening scene of Martyrs, mm-hmm. given the way that it's shot, but also it's, like, just that very, like, European feel to stuff. I was like, oh, okay. I really enjoyed that opening sequence a lot and thought it was really cool. I really enjoyed also the early, like, sequences in the movie, watching the girls become friends, Lucy and Anna. I really have to give props to the kid actors, particularly the one who played young Lucy. Mm-hmm. She really managed to convey the kind of, like, coming out of her shell process of it all. And you can really come to see how she and Anna become sort of codependent on each other, mm-hmm. Based on their, like, childhood experiences. It's the brightest part, their relationship, their friendship, or kind of dances a romantic relationship with ever mm-hmm. explicitly stating anything, but, like, their relationship with each other is the, like, this, like, bright gem in, like, a bleak ass movie. Yeah. But even then, it's still kind of difficult because I saw Lucy at a certain point, like, it hit me that she's just, like, too damaged.
She never had a chance.
She really never had a chance. And, like, it made me feel even worse for Anna, who I think, like, clearly has feelings for her.
Also, she does think she has a chance. She thinks she can help her. She thinks she can fix her.
She thinks she can, yes. And it makes it that much worse. And I think, like, that is just, like, the actresses did such an incredible job. It is so heartbreaking. And, like, I love them, and I love their friendship, and I love the things that they do for each other, and that they, like, would, you know, Lucy would be, like, infinitely worse off without mm-hmm. Anna. But, mm-hmm. like, they're just... It just was not meant to be.
Right.
It's a little hard to watch. Not in a way that I would say, like, it's hard to watch, it's just too sad, like, don't even bother, but, like, you know, it's hard to watch.
It's painful. The whole movie is painful.
Yes, it is. It is. I thought that the, like, demon creature mm-hmm. that you see in the beginning parts, there's, like, a part where she's in her room and the way it darts around in the shadows. Mm-hmm. I really liked the, like, supernatural feel it gave to the movie. Mm-hmm. Because I wasn't expecting that. Based again on what I knew about the movie beforehand, I thought it was going to be like straight torture and nothing else. And I thought including this kind of like demon representation of Lucy's mental health, or at least that's what I assumed it was. Maybe I'm wrong.
That's what it is.
But I thought it was a really great way to like add depth to something that like could have been straight up just like, and now we're hitting someone, and now we're like shooting someone, and now we're like, I don't know, like it added to the emotional complexity of the character, but also added to the complexity of the movie. It took it from being straight torture porn to something that flirted with like mental illness and the supernatural. Yeah. In a different way. And I really liked that a lot. I like movies that have a bit of a supernatural edge to them. Mm-hmm. So, there was that. Let's see. One thing I thought about, and maybe you can have thought more about this and can enlighten me on this. So, at a certain point in the movie, pretty early on, we realize that we see Lucy come into this house, and there's like a mom and a dad and 2 kids, and she is there to kill the mom and dad because she recognizes them, particularly the mom, but like she recognizes them as the people that tortured her when she was a little kid. Mm-hmm. And she kills the mom and dad, but she also kills the 2 children, which I thought was a weird choice, and I couldn't tell what her motivations were for doing so. Because my thought was, if the point was to like take away everything from the people that tortured her, right? Like, if she could kill the kids, but then leave, like, the mother and father still alive.
No, she says why she does it.
Why?
She asks...
like, a mercy killing?
No, she asks him, do you know what your parents did? And he, like, looks at her with a very knowing look. And is kind of like, And so she kills them. Because they knew.
I guess I missed that. I didn't think they knew.
They knew.
I guess I was confused. I thought it was like... Okay, she's here to kill them because they tortured her. But also, like, oh, if she really wants to make them suffer, she could kill their kids and, like, leave them with their...
They knew about it, and if you analyze that conversation that they have at the breakfast table, where they're all sitting there and they're, like, joking about their lives, and he asks her something along the brother asks the sister something along the lines, like, are you happy, or do you like this? And she was like, yeah, this is living the high life. Okay. And so when like you put that in the context of the fact that they knew why they were living the high life, that's, that's sick.
Maybe that's something that, like, is a second viewing thing. Because at that point in the movie, it was not really confirmed that they were, like...
Yeah, of course.
At that point in the movie, like... They make it seem equally possible that Lucy is just crazy. Right. And that she just, like, attacked an innocent family because she's out of her mind or whatever.
Yeah, and they also flirt at the idea that Lucy may have been wrong. She's like, that's when Anna says to her, how can you tell from a newspaper photo? Right. How do you know it's them? And then that's, like, all the way up until the point... where they have, like, the bodies in the bathtub, and she shows her the newspaper thing, and she, like, looks at her, and she, like, points to the woman, she's like, it's her. And then that's when Anna, like, relaxes and, like, hugs her. Because she thought there was a very real possibility that she just went in and just massacred a family. And that's... Right. Yeah.
And I thought that was, I made a note about that as well. I guess I don't have it. I really liked the scene after she's killed them all, but before Anna shows up, she's laying on the couch and it's quiet, and she's, like, watching the blood dry on her hands. Mm-hmm. And she's just, like, looking at her hands, and, like, I don't know, I really like that. That felt, like, so real to me. Like, I mean, I can't personally imagine myself with that much, like, literal blood on my hands. But I just, like, that's so much, like, what I do. Like, it reminds me a little bit of when I was a kid. I don't know if you did this as well, but, like, I got glue on my hands. Mm-hmm. And then I would, like, rub it and then, like, feel the glue flaking off and stuff. And it just, that, like, very tactile response to something reminded me of that. and I thought it felt like a very human moment after a lot of like very violent intake visually for the viewer.
Right. And then also when you think about that in connection to when she like goes and rubs her hand in the wet blood and she's like holding it up to her demon saying, I did it. I did it.
Yeah.
You can kind of connect those two scenes.
Yeah. The way that they would trigger flashbacks of Lucy's like childhood torture, I thought was really well done from a technical standpoint. Like the very first time they do it, they have the like thumping sound that triggers a memory, and also like brings her back out of it. And I just felt like the way that they cut the scene was really cool. I took note of the music. The first time that Lucy's fighting off the demon in the house before Anna's there, they play some music behind that scene that's kind of like weirdly upbeat and poppy. And I thought that was a really interesting choice, and I wondered if you had any like input on that or any.
I
like,
honestly never thought about it. Never thought about it.
I didn't dislike it, but it I think works as a kind of like a very subtle thing to unsettle the viewer, because the music, it's not like a pop song, but it has like kind of an up-tempo.
It's like a dancey song, like
a little bit.
I always just assumed that they did it because it was just like an action sequence, I guess.
That makes sense. I guess when I normally think of a scene like that in a horror film, I expect kind of like, violins racing and like almost like an orchestral score type of thing. And if it is going to be more contemporary music, something a little bit bleaker maybe? I'm not sure. But I thought that was like a really interesting choice, and I liked it, and I wondered if you had a similar reaction, or if you had any insight as to why they might have done that, or like an interpretation.
I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't have all the answers.
No, I mean you mean you don't have the. You mean you're not the expert? Like.
No, I didn't make the movie. I wish I did, but I didn't.
At a certain point in this movie, I made a note to myself, and this is not. I'm just going down my list here, and this is not the fault of the movie itself, but I made a note to myself. I said, man, it's a good thing I have like 3.5 years in French, because the subtitles I have here are really shitty.
Oh.
This isn't directly the fault of the movie. That movie probably took me twice as long to watch as it should have, because I kept having to stop it, adjust the subtitle speed, or like adjust the timing of the subtitles, and then restart it again, and then after a few minutes they would be out of sync again. It was like consistently 3 to 5 minutes off of the actual action of the movie.
It's like $7 to buy it on Amazon.
I probably should have just done that, but at that point I was like, fuck. Like, I was like, I'm not gonna let this beat me.
Yeah.
And like I said, luckily I have like a passing bare bones enough French that I had like a decent idea of like what they were saying, even when the subtitles weren't there. That's not the fault of the movie. It's just something that I felt was important to write down, I guess. I guess, like, if I ever misinterpret something or, like, misinterpreted a scene, maybe that would be why, is because I had incorrect subtitles over that part of the movie. I thought another scene that I really liked, it seemed, like, really, like, meaningful and knowing, that there was the one scene in the movie where Lucy had been asleep, and Anna was, like, downstairs trying to clean up bodies and stuff, but Lucy was asleep, and she wakes up in the little girl's bedroom. And it just made me, it was very good at suggesting, like, this unfulfilled promise of childhood that Lucy never had the opportunity to take. Yeah. This, like, life that she might have had, but she's, like, never ever going to be able to get back. And to see her as an adult in this room where there are, like, trophies and medals and, like, happy family pictures and, like, stuffed animals. It was very, like...
sad?
Yeah, sad. It was a very good intentional choice to make, and it was effective. I wouldn't even say it made me sad exactly. It almost made me feel, and I know this doesn't make sense, but it was almost like a weird, hybrid of, like, melancholy and nostalgia.
Yeah, I think it does make sense.
It maybe, like, can, in the viewer, initiate a sense of, like, remembering your own childhood and maybe, like, how good you did or didn't have it in comparison to this family where they've got their little, like, expert up-and-coming Olympic swimmer or whatever her deal was. Like, I don't know. It was just interesting. I made a note. Anna loves Lucy so much. Right here.
Yeah, to the point where it seems that Anna is in love with Lucy, but Lucy doesn't really feel the same way. Yeah. She loves her, but she's not in love with her. And that scene where she kisses her. Anna kisses Lucy, and Lucy goes like, "What are you doing?"
She flinches away from her.
Yeah. They were hugging, and there was some cheek kissing going on, and then Anna kisses Lucy on the lips, and Lucy, that's too much for her.
Mm-hmm. Another thing I know, and maybe this is, like, incorrect now, because we just had the conversation about the kids being killed. But I made this note also, Lucy is pleading with the demon at one point, and she says, like, she killed the children too. Like, she has this line that says, I killed the children too. And when she says that line, like, her voice cracks. I don't know, like, I was initially, on my first viewing, like, operating under the idea that, like, she didn't want to kill those kids. And that, like, I thought maybe, like, it's a mercy killing. Like, she knows the parents are pieces of shit, and she's killing them before they have a chance to grow up to be like that. Or she thinks maybe these kids are also being tortured by the parents in some way. Like, you know, if they're, like, literal torturers and murderers, like,
I don't think
maybe it's better.
I think that she knows why they do the torture and everything, so there's no way that I don't think she would assume that the parents would be torturing their own kids. But I think that there's also another, like, huge reason why potentially she killed the kids, is that I think initially they had planned to kill them and then, you know, leave, flee the country, flee whatever.
Oh, the parents?
No, Anna and Lucy, when she killed the children.
Oh,
it probably was also because they can't have anyone identifying them. They can't have anybody left behind.
That's true. I guess I just felt like that scene, she has this, like, crackle in her voice that sounds to me sad. Like, she didn't want to kill the children.
Yeah, I think that's obvious. I think that
most people would probably not want to kill children given a chance.
Right, but I also think that Lucy probably has a lot of sympathy for kids.
Exactly, yeah. I feel like having gone through what she went through, it would be really difficult to pull that trigger. Literally. I didn't notice right away that the woman that Anna finds in the dungeon, I'm sorry, not that Anna, Lucy finds in the dungeons when she's a kid. I didn't notice right away that her mouth was sewn shut.
Yeah.
I didn't notice it until later when you get, like, the first actual good look that you get of the demon, that she had this, like, mouth sewn shut marks. And that how, like, eerie, how creepy it was to have her in the flashback just making those articulations that are not words. Was really cool. I thought about how in the scene where Anna was trying to get the mom out of the house.
Yeah.
Trying to save her, I think. She locks Lucy in a closet. I think it was a closet or another room. And I just said, even if it's for her own good, it's awfully cruel to lock the woman you love in a room knowing full well, like, what her, like, experience is.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was, like, rough.
Yeah, but I don't think she felt she had a choice.
No, I mean, I'm not blaming anybody here.
Yeah.
This is a very complex movie with complex situations that are also, like, very extreme. And, like, hopefully no one has to ever go through these in real life.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, the first half of the movie is a big setup on whether or not you think Lucy is crazy.
Yeah.
And, like, the entire tone of the movie changes once Anna discovers the secret lab, I guess, downstairs underneath the house. Like, at that point, like, it becomes an entirely different movie for me.
It is. It's like two films. It
really is. It is. It is. equal parts almost like a slasher. I would almost say the first half is. I don't know exactly what I'd call it. But the second half is like this very clinical, like, look at torture and religion. And you lose one of your two main characters halfway through.
Right.
I liked the practical effects in this movie really well.
Yeah. The makeup is amazing as well.
Incredible makeup. I was really impressed with the woman that Anna finds. The, like, rings in her head, the way the mask is bolted under her head looked really cool. It's probably unintentional, but for anyone who has followed OG stuff for a while or who checks our website, it's probably pretty obvious that I work in comics. I work at a comic shop, and the headpiece that woman had on her looked so much like, to me at least, it looked like the design they did for the Batman Who Laughs in a recent Batman event that happened. It's not exactly the same, but it just, like, reminded me of that immediately. Are you Googling it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I can see that.
It just made me think of the Batman Who Laughs right away, and it just was really cool.
Mm-hmm. Also, that part where they pull it off, like, I always go like, ah! Every time.
I did too. I went, ah! Yeah. So I was watching it on the couch. I had my headphones on, watching it on my laptop, while Pulp was sitting next to me. He had his headphones in and was playing Fortnite. And then after a while, he finished playing and took his headphones off. And I think he's just sitting there, and I'm just going like, like every once in a while. Like, he probably just had to sit there and listen to me make uncomfortable noises.
Yeah.
I think the only part of the movie that I, like, legitimately had a hard time looking at, and I had to do this thing where I, like, looked directly above the TV screen so I could, like, watch it out of my periffs, but, like, wasn't looking right at it, is when they've got that woman, and she's, like, freed, and she can see, and she's, you know, good to go, and she grabs a knife and starts, like, chopping away at her own arms.
Right.
The bugs that she's seeing or whatever.
Yeah.
For some reason, that was really difficult for me. I'm not sure why.
No, it's rough.
That particular part was, for me, like, the hardest part to watch. There is literally a skinned alive person in this movie, and, like, once my eyes got used to looking at it, I was like, oh, that's not so bad. But
I was just, honestly, the way that I think, I just marvel at how good it looks.
Yeah, like, it looks...
The effects in this movie, especially for being, it's over 10 years old now, or it's 10 years old
10 years
this year.
Now.
It looks incredible. And it holds up now. It looks good for today's standards.
It does. It goes back to, like, a larger argument about, like, practical effects versus, like, 3D effects. And I absolutely stand by what I say. Practical effects are always going to look better.
I agree.
Always. I cannot imagine seeing a fully CG'd woman, like, had they green, mocapped her body and, like, put in a 3D, like, it wouldn't look good. It wouldn't be nearly as impactful.
Yeah.
I was super impressed by that. So I guess, like, fast forwarding to that part, like, after Lucy is dead, Anna goes into the basement. She finds a body there of a woman who's, like, nearly dead. She, like, sets her free and helps her, and then, like,
she tries to help her.
She gets the thing off of her head, right?
Yeah, but...
That's a good start.
I think that woman is way too far gone.
Oh, yeah, mentally, yes.
No, physically. That woman is... I don't think that
forever?
woman would...
You don't think she
No.
With, like, proper medical care, she could have...
I think it would be a huge... it would be a huge feat for her to be okay at all. From a medical perspective.
You're probably right. But to at least free her from captivity is, I guess, good. But then, like, the house gets swarmed by, like, essentially Men in Black. Like... more or less, like, very officially people in, like, suits and stuff. They kill that woman, and they take Anna, down into that basement area, and she ends up having a talk with...
Well, that woman almost, she pretty much killed herself. I know they technically kill her, but after she's chopping away at her...
At her arms like that.
Yeah.
Very true.
It'd be really hard to avoid infection, and with her starvation, giving her the kind of antibiotics that she would need, her kidneys and liver would probably be so messed up by then. It's just...
That's true.
Yeah.
They're probably already really messed up.
Mm-hmm.
But, so, Anna has this conversation with, like, Madame. Mm-hmm. So, this, like, older lady who I, like, is, like, the unexplained, like, mastermind, I guess, of the whole deal.
Yeah.
And she has, like, a really interesting monologue piece about, like, without ever fully explaining who they are or why they're doing it, she tells you, like, what their agenda is. And,
I feel like the why is included, though.
It's included, but they don't, like, flesh it out. Like, it's not like you get one of these, like, villain speeches that's, like...
No, but I think it's easy to infer. It's easy to infer based on... So, anyway...
No, you're fine.
So, She explains that they tried over the years with many different types of people based on... To replicate things that they had seen in the past, which they call martyrdom. Mm-hmm. Which is when someone has gone through an incredible amount of suffering. Mm-hmm. They believe that they were able to see the afterlife.
Right.
When they were still alive and still able to communicate. And she shows pictures of a whole bunch of different women that were still alive, and she said we experimented with...
Were they all women?
In the pictures, yes.
Okay.
In the pictures, it's all women, because they came to the conclusion. They had tried with children, they had tried with all different types of people, but ultimately women were the ones that were most moldable to transfiguration. Mm-hmm. And so what they did... They said martyrs are extremely rare, so they have a lot of different women that they try this out with, and what they do is torture them to these extremes while keeping them alive, so that once they peak in their suffering, that they will achieve martyrdom, see the afterlife, and then be able to communicate it back. Mm-hmm. And that's what they've been striving to do the entire time, and that's why they've been doing this. Mm-hmm. For who knows how long. At least as long as Lucy's been a kid. That was probably during the maybe initial phases.
70s?
Oh, I don't know when this movie takes place.
Well, I think the movie takes place in, like, the contemporary, present day of 2008 or whatever. But I thought the flashback scenes with Lucy as a kid that, it was documenting at the very beginning of the movie, like the Super 8 footage-y stuff, I thought it had a date of sometime in the 70s on it. So
maybe. How old is Lucy, though?
And if
Lucy looks like she's 20.
Are you Googling it? Or are you just readjusting?
Kind of both, I guess.
It doesn't matter. For some reason, I really thought, like, the Super 8 footage, whenever Lucy was rescued from her thing, it was in, like, the 70s at some point.
I don't know. I feel like it had to be
Maybe I made that up.
Because...
I might have made it up.
It's gotta be, like, in the 80s. Because she only looks to be about maybe 20 years old. Lucy.
Yeah, I mean, I could totally be wrong. For some reason, I really had in my brain that it was in the 70s. But
I don't know how long that they were doing it beforehand, but I have to assume that... Well, when they started with Lucy, it had to have been during some of the earlier phases because they still hadn't figured out that children were not viable. That's
true. But I thought they said, and again, we're getting into the subtitles being way off at this point, so maybe I'm interpreting things incorrectly. But didn't they say, like, this person was from, like, the 1930s, and this person was from, like, the late 1800s? Yes, but those were not... Those weren't part of the experience?
No.
That's just other, like, past people that they believe
That's where they got the idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought those were part of their experiments, and they got the idea from, like, the literal idea of martyrdom, like, people that were biblical martyrs, and, like, historical, like, people that are, like, recorded in religious documentation or something. I
think that's where they got the idea for the name.
Okay. But I guess I was being a little bit literal in that case. Let's see. Anyway, you explained it perfectly. That is the process of transfiguration that they mention in order to bring about a martyr. And it does end, like, Anna is subjected to, like, force feeding and beating, and she experiences the mental anguish of, like, being let go from her chains and thinking she might be able to run, and she's always beaten down. So there's, like, the mental anguish.
They shave her head. They force feed her, but they only feed her just enough to keep her alive. So she's starving. Right. She's wasting away. She's completely emaciated. And, you know, this goes on for, one can assume, quite a while.
Yeah, they don't say.
And, they get to a point where they believe that she is this, you know, towards the end. And the final stage in all of her torture is that they skin her alive. And it is sometime after that she does see the afterlife and is able to communicate it back. I just want to point out, like, they show everything.
Yeah.
The only thing that they don't directly show is they don't show them peeling all of the skin off her body.
Yes. They don't show the, like, skinning act itself.
But they show her flayed body.
Yes.
I think part of the reason why they probably didn't show it is probably because that would have been some really intense practical effects.
Yeah. I assume that she's in some sort of a probably latex prosthetic that covers her whole body.
Yeah.
And that's one thing, because you put it on.
But then to pile like fake skin on top of that.
Yeah.
And then pull all of that off and still make it look convincing and brutal. Yeah, I could see how that would be difficult. I do believe that based on the movie and the way that it is, if they had been able to, they probably would have. They would
have found a way. Even if only showed, like, a little bit of it, like, not her entire skinning process, but, you know, like, peel the arm off or something, you know, like, they probably could have done it. It looks really good. I guess that inherently comes with a disclaimer. If you haven't figured this out for yourself already, you're like, we're going on and on about how good these special effects look because it looks realistic. And if
it looks very
something
realistic.
Like that is not something you can handle seeing, you should probably not watch this. If you haven't if you haven't already made up your mind on whether or not this film is for you.
I think that Martyrs is on the, like, literally extreme scale of horror. Like, it's not for everyone. It's probably for very few people. There's very little that can make me go, ugh. And especially after me seeing it as many times as I've seen it. I watched it 2 days ago just so I could have it fresh in my mind, and I still went, ugh. So, there you go.
But yeah, so they have her, and she's flayed, and they contact the madame, and they're like, you need to, she's there. You need to get down there.
They indicate it by the fact that they get this look in their eye. It's like the faraway look where they, like, look up. And
up
they
and,
just
like,
know.
out at nothing or something.
Yeah.
So she like, comes down there, and they show this scene of her, like, leaning into Anna, and Anna's, like, kind of barely moving her mouth, but she's whispering at her. And then it cuts to this bit where, like, presumably all the people that are a member of this, I don't know, would you call it a cult? Organization?
Society, I don't know.
Society?
Organization is probably good. Organization
a 13
is probably
club?
good.
I don't know.
Yeah. There's more than 13, though.
Oh, that's true.
Maybe they're in groups of 13? I don't know.
Maybe. But, so they, like, these members all get together, and they're, like, all dressed up. I noted that they were all, like, wealthy-looking white people, for whatever that means. But they all kind of gathered together, and there's a guy, I can't remember what his name is. You literally never see him before the scene.
But I don't remember his name either. And it's like a complicated French name.
Yeah, it's not anything like Bertrand or Francois or I don't know. But he comes and he kind of stands before the people, and he's like, we've done it. We've finally, recreated this, and it's, she's the only fourth person to ever reach martyrdom and the first person to do
communicate it back,
that's it. And so it's like a big deal, and they're all there to celebrate, and it cuts to the madame, and then she's gonna come down. I presume the intent is to have her come down and relay what she has learned,
right?
But she's in the room with the door closed, and you see her, like, the whole time she's got like a turban type hat thing,
like a fashion turban.
Not like a religious turban or anything, but like one of those kind of like 1920s flappery style turbans. And I like made a note
fake
of
eyelashes.
I was gonna say I made a note of it when that was like the first thing I noticed about her when they show her the first time
eyelashes.
In the movie. Massive eyelashes, like she's slaying people with those eyelashes.
Big old falsies, and she peels them off, and she's taking her turban off in the bathroom.
She's got like fake
while
hair
talking
under the turban.
Right. I think it's to give her like the appearance of like bangs in the front, but because when you see her real hair, it looks like brittle and
stringy,
old. Yeah, but this guy, this like presumably her attendant, comes up and is like, "Madame, are you coming down?" And they're all waiting on her, and they're like anxiously expecting her to come downstairs, and she's in the bathroom. And you're just like, if she's about to come downstairs, why is she taking all her makeup off? Because she's taking her lipstick off, taking those lashes off. She takes off the turban. She's got she had a fake piece, like a bang piece that was kind of coming out of the front of the turban, but it's also black. So I never really noticed it until I saw her take the hair off.
I was like, oh, that's weird.
And then, oh God, what are the exact words that the exchange? I really want to find out.
I just remember like the final words. You can look it up, but it was like...
I'm gonna.
Do you want to look it up, or do you want me to talk about it?
I'm gonna look it up.
Okay.
God, I can't... I can't remember exactly what she says, but he says something along the lines like, did she really communicate it back? And she was like, yes. And she asks him, like, do you want to know, like, if there is like an afterlife or something like that? And then he's like, yes. And she says, keep doubting. And she blows her fucking brains out with a gun.
Yes. It was, what, she says something like...
Keep doubting.
Keep doubting, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I said it.
Sorry, my brain like...
No, it's
totally,
fine.
Like... But it's... Do you think that means... I mean, it has to mean that, like, whatever the afterlife is so unattainably, like, good that we should all be rushing for it?
So there are a lot of theories about this, and I've like seen multiple discussions about this, and the discussions go either way. And there are like, people on either side, and there's Reddit threads about it. And
tell me about it.
Number one, the idea is that whatever she heard about the afterlife is so pointless that if she knows that she's heading towards there her entire life, what is the meaning of being alive? What's the meaning of living? There's nothing's worth anything. So that's the one argument. Then the opposite argument is along the lines of what you say, that whatever is in the afterlife is so beautiful, so just incredible, that nothing on earth could ever be worth being here a second longer.
That's what I initially thought.
I lean heavily on that one. But there's something about the keep doubting thing that does nag me.
I think what I took from it was keep doubting, like, doubting that... Okay, so if you ask yourself, doubting what? Keep doubting what? I think that's, like, the key.
I think we need to look and see what he said, what the actual exchange is.
I can try and pull up the file still here. But to me, it seemed though her delivery was very dismissive. Like, keep doubting. Like, to not believe... I don't know. Because they're searching... I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, she says, can you imagine what happens to us after death? And then he says something like along the lines of affirmative. And then she says, keep doubting. And she shoots herself. So there's a third theory that I kind of have.
Uh-huh.
And it's like maybe a stretch, and I'm not completely convinced by this theory, but it's a thought I had. That the reason why she kills herself and doesn't relay it is that she knows that if she goes out and she tells everybody what happened, then they're going to stop all the testing, they're going to stop all of it. But if she dies, she selfishly keeps that knowledge with her, and then they will probably continue it on.
Okay.
More girls will continue to get hurt. This will continue on. And for some whatever reason, that's what she essentially wants.
I'm thinking about that right now. I'm processing that.
Because if she just comes out and says, I saw the afterlife, this is what she said, like, we're good now, we'll stop, then the whole thing is over.
Maybe the reason she would want that is because, like, maybe the reason she would want the experiments to go on is because it gives all these people, for better or worse, for fucked up or not, like, it gives them a reason to go on living and a purpose in life, which maybe leads me back towards the first theory that you stated, which is that life is pointless.
Yeah.
And there is no meaning.
Yeah.
And that maybe it's better to keep the illusion that there's something to live for and work towards than to know that it's all bullshit.
Yeah. Yes. These are pretty much exactly my thoughts.
Okay. Is that the theory you lean most heavily on, or is it still the afterlife is something so positive?
I don't know. It's really hard to, like, firmly decide, because on the one hand, I've never actually said that theory out loud to anyone, but now that I'm saying it out loud, it doesn't sound that stupid after all. I'm like, I don't know, maybe I do have something there.
That's what I thought, like, right away, for whatever that's worth. Mm-hmm. So I've got some, like, I'll try to wrap it up here, because I feel like we've been talking about this for a while. I'm going to just read off to you my final thoughts here. I'm just going to... So forgive the bad jokes. I wrote them a few days ago.
Hit me. Hit me with them.
It says... Call me Harleen Quinzel here. I'm going to put on my psychotherapist pants for a minute and posit the reason that you like this movie so much. And to a broader extent, movies that are filled with shocking content and, like, quote, torture porn, is because movies like this are about pushing characters and, by extension, the audience to their absolute brink mentally, physically, and emotionally. And I know you've been through some things personally that pushed you to those brinks and that you relate to these characters and what they're going through. But also, maybe you feel like in going through what you've been, like, different experiences throughout your life, that maybe you've lost the ability to feel those things and you want to recapture them. Just want to feel something, so to speak. And that, as a side note to that, you want to see strong women who can survive.
Okay, well, you know what? I think that you are psychoanalyzing me, and I got it, and I think you do have something there. Because honestly, I always liked Martyrs, but I didn't come around to being as in love with it to the point where I thought it was my favorite film until I went through those things. Mm-hmm. So I liked it on first viewing. I was like, yeah, that's a rad horror movie, one of the most intense I've ever seen. It's hard to stack up to. It's hard to stack up to the thrill of it. But then I'm not going to get into it because it's like a super long topic, but a lot of people who listen to the podcast already know that I went through this really atrocious skin condition that's called acne conglobata, and if you want a real-life horror thrill, Google it, because it is one of the grossest, most disturbing skin conditions there is, and it's basically where your skin starts overreacting to normal bacteria, and it creates punnels of pus.
Punnels of pus.
Yeah, okay.
Friday the 13th is still in effect.
It creates tunnels of pus under your skin, and it literally, like, tunneled through my face. I was on antibiotics. Nobody knew what was wrong. It just kept growing and growing to the point where my entire face was affected. I looked like a monster. I did not at all look like myself, and it was one of the most horrifying experiences that I have. I mean, it is the single worst thing that has ever happened to me in my life, and I got to the point where I literally wanted to die, and thought about dying regularly, pretty much every day that I went through it. Eventually, a doctor figured out what I had. They were able to figure out a cure for it. There's a possibility it could come back someday. And I went through that. My body was under incredible physical pain. I was suffering from probably even worse mental anguish than the physical aspects of it. And I have not been the same ever since it happened to me. Like, literally, my face is not the same. I'm scarred physically and emotionally. And every time I ever break out in any kind of anything, I have, like, a mini heart attack because I think it's coming back. So, yeah, that is...
Not to drag all that up. I didn't mean to drag all that
up. No. I'm just giving context. But yeah, I think that obviously I was not skinned alive, but I feel like sometimes it's when you go through something that serious and so that bad, and also I went through infections that went into sepsis at one point. So I was literally at some points on the literal brink of death, both from depression and also physical risk. And I feel like it's hard for people to ever relate to that because most people don't, and I really am glad that most people don't experience that. And so Lucy, especially, I am just incredibly sympathetic to her because she was a literal broken person who never recovered, and that could have been me. Mm-hmm. Not that necessarily I would have died, not that medical intervention wouldn't have saved me, but from my own mental and emotional anguish.
Right.
So I really can identify with Lucy.
Okay.
And I do, you're right, like, I feel close to it. But yeah, I also have been through so much. I'm very desensitized, and also even before I went through that, I was just desensitized on horror films. So when I get something that is intense enough that I feel something from it, I like it, but then when it has this, like, amazing, like, it has this amazing inner story that goes along with it, and it has such purpose, and it questions, you got mental health issues here, you got physical health issues here, you have murder, you have child abuse, you have, and then ultimately you have the question about the afterlife that's, like, even bigger than all of that. Mm-hmm. The movie manages to wrap up all of these topics in such a fluid way, and I just don't think that any horror film I've ever seen can pull that off. Well, there you go.
Just to continue. Sorry.
Sorry.
No, I'm really glad. I'm afraid you're going to start hitting on one of my points before I can get to it.
Okay. No. Go.
Furthermore, I'll posit the reason that I like campier horror movies and artsy horror movies are because they either A, allow me to find humor in the bleakest of places and therefore shine a light into the dark, or B, they allow me to find something beautiful about it, whether that's metaphorically or literally. I feel like Martyrs is a movie about finding hope and seeing the outer limits of human suffering. How very Danganronpa of me. Mm-hmm. It's the comfort of seeing someone go through the very worst possible things, and still come out of it on the other side. Come out of the other side of it okay, whether they're okay dead or okay alive. Because I get the impression from the movie, and they are either Anna's hallucinations or she's literally experiencing divine intervention from Lucy's ghost. But Lucy's ghost something is there encouraging Anna to make it through this. And I got the impression that part of why I think whatever is in the afterlife is so beautiful that we should want to be there is because I think Lucy is reaching out to Anna from that place because she seems to be encouraging her just a little bit longer. It's almost over.
Yeah.
Subtext being until we are reunited, until we see each other.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a little bit on the nose. Maybe my having been raised in a religious Southern household is showing. But I felt like that particular ending resonated for me, and that's the meaning I took away from it, because I saw these not necessarily... I mean, they could have been hallucinations. They could have been Anna hallucinating, but I felt like Lucy was very present with Anna and was walking her through it because Lucy had been through it all before.
Yeah.
So I think even after all the torture that Anna has been through, and Lucy as well, that both of them ultimately come out of the other side okay in spite of it all. Because I think ultimately, in death, they will have each other.
Yeah.
And that's my takeaway from that. I made some notes about, could Anna have reached the final stages of enlightenment without Lucy's love? Why does she never see the thing that is... Okay, alright, we're getting to something else. Maybe you can explain it to me. Why does Anna never see a demon or something coming to hurt her? Because, again, this could be subtitle issue. I thought a sign of a successful martyr in the making was, quote, seeing things that you thought were going to hurt you, or seeing part of the other world, which is the ultimate goal. But they, what's the one woman saw bugs all over her skin, and Lucy seemed to see this demon, which is kind of a reflection of her mental state, but also sort of speaks to seeing another world and a thing that wants to hurt you, which the madam asks specifically about at one point. So I thought it was interesting that Anna never seems to see anything like that. I think that's because Lucy is protecting her, either literally as like a ghost or spirit, or Anna's love for Lucy is so strong that is like giving her a sense of inner strength that allows her to be untouched by that kind of thing.
I thought her hallucination was Lucy.
Huh?
I thought her hallucination was Lucy.
The voice?
Yeah.
But Lucy doesn't ever seem like she wants to hurt her, and I thought it was supposed to be
I don't think it
harmful.
necessarily has to be negative.
Maybe that could have been my subtitles. They specifically... They were not, like, very professional-looking subtitles. They seemed, like, kind of weird. But the ones that I saw specifically said, have you ever seen something coming to hurt you?
Okay.
I
just always assumed that it didn't have to be coming to hurt her, and that maybe she was able to flip that. I never, honestly, that as far as flipping the hallucination, I didn't think about that before, but right now I'm thinking about the fact that maybe she was able to flip it because of what you said, because of Lucy. But also, this is probably taking a little bit away from this direct question, but my number one question always watching this film is, what if the hallucination is seeing the afterlife? Like, what if she never saw it?
The whole thing. No, I mean, that's an excellent point, and we haven't discussed that at all, but you're totally right. You put someone through such extremes, and that goes back to, the whole movie is a big black box of a question. Because, like I said, you spend the first half of the movie questioning, is Lucy just, fucking flat out insane crazy or not? And then, is this person hallucinating or not? Is the afterlife real or not? I think the movie asks a lot of questions that it doesn't really want or need to answer, and that's fine. But you're totally right on that front. I
guess they could compare notes with the other martyrs, but they haven't had anyone else communicate yet.
Exactly.
So I guess you gotta torture some more girls just to confirm.
Scientific method. You gotta recreate your results.
Yeah.
So, that is pretty much all the notes that I had. I hope I haven't talked too much. That was my experience watching Martyrs. I did like it. I will say, I think, knowing the reputation that this movie has, I expected something different. I think I thought I was gonna be, like, way more grossed out by it than I was. Compared to what my brain had, like, mentally prepared me for, it was, like, quote-unquote tame. That's not to say I would recommend it to a casual viewer. I absolutely would not.
No, it's, like, the heaviest movie you can recommend to anyone.
Yeah, but I enjoyed it. I liked it. I'm not sure it's the kind of thing I could watch again in a short amount of time. I would probably need to, like, sit on it and wait. But I would certainly watch it again.
I, like, want to go watch it right now.
We'll go. Bye.
No, we got to talk about Suspiria.
Okay. I feel a little bad because there's not... I love Suspiria to the moon and back, but there is not the same level of, like, I was sort of looking for. It's not, like, God is metaphor, and there's, not really a big...
yeah.
There's not a heavy, like, plot turn, or it's not trying to say anything.
300-pound movie like this one is.
Yeah, so I feel a little bit bad. I just talked for a million billion years about Martyrs, and I feel like there's maybe not as much to discuss with Suspiria, but I hope you enjoyed it at least.
No, I did. I had a lot of fun with it, and I guess maybe that's a good contrast in this discussion, and maybe it's good that we discuss Martyrs first.
We got the heavy lifting out of the way.
Right, because now I'm, like, especially hearing you say that, like, you find, like, beauty and sort of, like, upbeat, and I'm reaching here, but, like, a little bit of humor in B movies. That I can say I had fun with it. Like, I don't think you can ever be like, man, I had a blast watching Martyrs.
I mean, you would say that.
I would not say I have a blast watching it. A blast is not the word I would use. I really I love sinking my brain into that movie. And I notice new things every time I watch it. So I'm always, like, reaching out for that. But Suspiria is fun. Like, I think it's fun. And I think I can see where a lot of movies that I like have been inspired by it, if not its other films by Argento, its companion films. A long time ago I saw somebody describe it, and I wanted to watch it back then, and it was just, like, in a list of horror movies that you must watch or should watch, and I've probably read, like, every list out there. And that's not a lot of them, and they're just, like, it's a horror fairy tale. It was like Snow White, but horror. And I was just like, damn, that sounds awesome. And they showed, like, some screenshots from it, and I, like, remember at the time it was just, like, difficult to find for whatever reason, so I just, like, gave up and watched something else. And I just didn't come back around it until, like, I met you, and then you were just like, you've talked about this.
Shut up about it.
You've talked about it, in passing the entire time I've known you, and every time you bring it up, I'm like, God, I need to watch that. So I finally watched it, and I know what the hype is about, and I think, I could, like, say a lot of people may have been inspired by it or his style of movies, but the number one person that comes to mind for me is Guillermo del Toro.
I was gonna say that, yeah.
And I am a huge fan of Guillermo del Toro, especially Pan's Labyrinth and Crimson Peak. Those are two of, like, Crimson Peak is one of my favorite movies in general. And I could see, like, a lot of inspiration, potentially, from the Argento films, in specifically Crimson Peak.
I still haven't seen that movie yet, but I have seen, I think there's, like, a poster of it that's, like, all blue and red. And it reminds me so much of how a lot of the lighting and color is handled in Suspiria.
You have
I can totally
to watch it.
I will. We're probably going to end up just doing, like, a series of these, like, movie exchanges where we just go back and forth on, like every couple of months. We're like, why haven't you watched this yet? Like,
maybe we won't put it on ourselves to have a schedule for it.
No.
But yeah,
every once in a while.
We'll set up the next one. The next one will be you watch Crimson Peak, I watch
Frankenhooker.
All right. There we go. That's our next one. That's our next one. We gotta come up with a name for this segment because it seems like it's gonna be one. No, it's the really bright colors. I feel like one thing I love visually and also just thematically is I love contrast between the light and dark. Mm-hmm. And I think that the light and dark, not necessarily being black and white, but the light and dark is really at play here.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And I think that's really awesome.
I think a lot of people take away, if nothing else, from that movie is color and light and dark. So I think you're definitely onto something there. It's very much a product of the time it was made. It's a very 70s movie, and it was made using, like, very 70s movie techniques.
I'm so about the fashion in it.
Oh, I know, right?
Yeah.
I rewatched it.
Makes me want to be, like, way more glamorous in my lounging life.
I know. So, like, I was rewatching it, too, like, to refresh myself a little bit. I've seen it probably a billion times, but, like, I just wanted to, like, refresh before I came in here. And I, like, always notice this, and I always think it's so weird. I don't even know what you would call this, but it's, like, the first day that Susie goes to the academy to be, like, introduced, and she walks in, and she's got this, like, cute little dress on, but she's got on, like, a shawl, except it's, like, drapes across the front, and the tails of it hang off the back. And I'm like, what is that? Like,
I don't know, I've seen it before, but I think
that must
that's
have
what
a
it
name.
is. I think it is a shawl, or a scarf. It's just a fashion scarf, not a winter scarf.
I guess. I was just, like, I've literally, outside of this movie, never seen anyone, like,
I've seen it before.
Do that in person.
But I feel like I've seen it in, like, old Hollywood.
Yeah, it's, like, a very, like, glam thing.
Yeah.
But you're right. So if people say Suspiria is like a horror fairy tale, I have a book that I got pulp for our anniversary a couple years back. That is just a breakdown of every film that Argento has ever worked on. Mm-hmm. And I went back to the Suspiria section to cull together a few notes for this. And one of the things it mentions, and you can find this, I think, on, like, Wikipedia, too, but when he collaborated with the people who worked on lights and stuff especially, he gave them, as an example of things that he wanted to take inspiration from, was the, like, original animated Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It was, like...
Okay, maybe that's what...
Literally.
It was on one of those lists that I saw that comparison, so maybe they knew that.
Yeah, so maybe...
Whoever wrote the list.
They know. But yeah, So, and I'll, like, read this to you now. I was going to let you talk and then jump in. But, let me see if I can find it. So, I have two takes here on, like, where the story came about. And a lot of people's, like, biggest problem with this movie is that they feel like it doesn't have a story.
Totally does, though.
I get why it might not come across with much of one at first. There's a lot of things that seem, like, kind of vaguely related, but not really. But I think, like, if you are paying enough attention, like, there is a story there. So the movie was written by Dario Argento and also his, like, lover at the time, Daria Nicolodi. I think I'm saying her name right. But they were, like, a couple at the time. And there's interviews from both of them in this book. And, he says he came to it from this way, and she says she was inspired by this thing. They're both kind of similar, so I don't know which one of them actually came up with it. But Argento said, when I was young, I was very interested in witches. I often thought my headmistress was a witch who wanted to eat me, and I thought I'd enjoy developing a story along those lines. I was fascinated by witchcraft and the black arts and read several books on the subject. I traveled a lot in Europe and met many women who said they were witches, and I became inspired by one particular book on the topic about a girls' school where they learned practical magic. And then his former lover, Daria Nicolodi, said that she suggested this movie to him as, like, a departure from Giallo, to try and get him to move in a new direction with his career. She felt like he didn't have anything left to prove in that arena. So she told, I'm quoting her, I'm going to say I told him a true story of something that happened to my grandmother when she took piano lessons in her younger days at a school near Basel on the German and Swiss borders. This story was turned into Suspiria. I lost my spot. Oh, she says, the idea was mine, the title was mine. I was reading Thomas de Quincey's Confessions of an Opium Eater at the time, and I put my finger on the story of the three mothers, Mater Suspiriorum, Mater Tenebrum, and Mater Lacrimorum, and told Dario that Suspiria, named after the mother of sighs, would be an astonishing title for the film, and he agreed.
Yeah, that's a good one.
My grandmother was an extraordinary person. She lived with French artist Jean Cocteau in Paris before marrying my grandfather, and she was a great white magician. She could cure children and old people with her gift, a talent that I have inherited. What I remember most about her is her voice. It was always so passionate, beautiful, and pure. She was purity personified. When she attended the school, the name of which I will only tell you begins with the letter D, as I still can't utter its name through fear, she realized that the teachers were pupils of black magic. Prizes were given to pupils who were best at black arts or filthy rich, not because they were good at dance or violin or agriculture. On the night of the prize-giving ceremony, she would also hear strange noises that she would often describe to me as being like a slow samba. She was so scared by her discoveries that she moved away as quickly as she could and would tell me the story over and over again as a child. I liked her telling me, too, as I found it far more fascinating than either Snow White or Pinocchio, so I inherited the story from my grandmother, along with the use of white magic. So it's some background on that movie. Yes!
That's so rad. I kind of don't believe it, but also I want to.
I know. I like Daria Nicolodi.
I want to go to that school.
I know.
I'm too old, but please accept me.
Where's my Hogwarts letter?
Yeah.
But, so, yeah, that's, and I'm not, I guess since she already mentioned it, I will bring it up briefly. You probably know this already, but maybe someone listening doesn't. This is technically the first in a trilogy, of kind of related movies, loosely. It's Suspiria being the first one, Inferno is the second, and then the third one came out in, like, 2007, and people, like, generally don't like it, and it's too, like, tonally different from the first two. It almost didn't get made. It's called The Mother of Tears.
Do you like it?
I haven't seen it, to be perfectly honest. I didn't even know it had actually been made or had come about for a long time.
What if I, like, watched it and I was like, that's my favorite one?
I would respect your opinion, but strongly disagree.
Have you seen Inferno?
I think so. I feel like I have. I definitely went through a phase after I saw this movie the first time. I, like, binge watched a ton of Argento movies in, like, one sitting. But that means that they kind of blur together for me a little bit.
That's like me with Hitchcock films.
Yeah.
I've seen, like, all of the Hitchcock films at one time or another. And I just don't really entirely remember which one is which.
They are all one movie now for you?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. So, anyway... if there, like I said, there's no, like, big, deep meaning behind Suspiria, I don't think, but if there's anything that you liked or disliked you want to talk about, go for it, and I will chime in where necessary.
I don't know if I should, like, summarize in order to convey, like, why I like this, but, like...
Feel free. I did some summarizing in Martyrs, so...
Basically... You're gonna have to forgive me, I don't remember her name. Main character.
Okay.
Susie, she goes to this school for dance. And, a lot of weird shit happens, some gross shit happens. And then eventually it is revealed that there are witches at the school. And, people die. There's a lot of stuff going on. But... I really like that mystery, that idea that, like, there's something occult going on at this school. I don't know, maybe it's because, like, Harry Potter was so big to me when I was young. To be a cliche, like, I am a Harry Potter fan, for sure. And so, like, the idea that there's something amiss going on at the school, like, I love that. And, I think that ultimately, like, even the final scene, even though people say that the movie has a vague story, I really don't understand that at all, because I think the story is very obvious, and I think it comes to, like... when you said that people say it might not have much of a story, I was just like, oh, I feel like they're not going to, like, give you any kind of real satisfying ending. But I feel like everything is more or less explained, and then there's a clear ending, like, the last scene shows you exactly what you wanted to see, so...
Right. I do sometimes wonder where people are coming from when they say that, because I reached a point where I've heard people say that so much, I've kind of always felt like, well, maybe it's just me. Like, maybe I'm making up the story.
No.
And nobody else can see it, because that's just what I hear constantly, is like...
It's not like a crazy complex story.
No.
But...
It's simple.
But the story, I just told you guys it. Like, that's what the story of the movie is.
Right.
There are witches running a dance school, and this girl is there, and a lot of girls fall victim to the stuff that goes on with the witches. That's the movie. That's the story.
I think
it's all very, like, pretty and cool looking, and personally, I like that, like, vintage 70s vibe. Mm-hmm. So I think it's, like, very aesthetically pleasing to me.
Some of those sets are bonkers.
There's, like, a movie that came out kind of recently called The Love Witch. Did you watch that?
No, and I think I've told you this before, but I didn't see that movie because somebody I went to high school with has a bit part in it, and that somebody I went to high school with had a romantic and sexual relationship with one of my best friends.
Okay, well, if it makes you feel any better, I didn't like the movie because that's a movie that doesn't have a story. But aesthetically, I really like it, and the main character is really pretty.
So cool. Like, I want to watch it, but also I'm, like, afraid I'm going to see that girl's face and be like, blah.
I think that the plot and the actual story is really, like, poorly done in that film. Sorry, I didn't mean to make this a review of The Love Witch.
It's okay.
But what I was trying to say...
Sorry.
Is no, you didn't do it. I did it. What I'm trying to say is that I feel like that 70s sort of style mixed with some sort of like occulty witch aspect is totally carried on into that movie, and that movie came out recently. So it's like I'm not the only one who's into it. Like, we're all into it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and it's also a lot like the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina comic, too.
Right.
Has a very, like, 60s and 70s occult
But that's,
vibe.
like, directly, like, I'm pretty sure they've cited that being an inspiration, right?
Being what?
They've cited Argento being an inspiration for Sabrina.
I know artistically the artist on that comic definitely was inspired by that. I think, like...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, I thought you meant, like, the writer. I was like, I can't speak as to the writer. He was... What he was writing
I'm talking about the look, because the plot of The Love Witch and stuff isn't really relevant to Suspiria either. It's just, I'm saying, like, that look is iconic. Even though that word is, like, crazy overused.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. You're right there, for sure. God, the sets in that movie are incredible. Like,
it's all, they made all of it. There's no CG.
Yeah. I know, like, that's another thing I feel like people don't have, like, I've heard complain about the movie is they think it doesn't look good. Like, the, when a knife gets plunged into that one girl's heart, and you see, like, the beating heart, and they're like, oh, that looks terrible. And then the part where Sarah gets her, like, throat slit. Like,
I feel like it's supposed to be, like, over-the-top looking, so I never thought it was supposed to be realistic. Like, if you want a realistic movie, go watch Martyrs.
Right.
But, the one scene that I literally laughed out loud about, though, was the bat scene.
Oh.
The bat.
And, like, flying in her hair? Or the one that's, like...
The one that goes into the room and then she ends up killing it.
Oh, yeah.
That's hilarious.
Too much for you?
The bat looks so stupid. They shouldn't have showed it so much. But I'm fine with it. Like, I'm fine with there being cheese in the movie. Like, I like Evil Dead. So,
right.
I'm totally okay with that kind of thing, but I could see how people might not like it, but then I'm just like, my answer to you is, like, don't watch B movies.
Yeah. I wouldn't even know, I don't know if I would necessarily classify this as a B movie, because it has a lot of B movie aspects. I guess, like, I feel like it's reached a place where it's, I mean, maybe there's some overlap here, but I think of it as, like, a cult film and a foreign film before I think of it as, like, a B movie, because I think
you can be all of those things.
That's true. I guess I think of, when I think of B movies, I think of things that are, like, intentionally, like, low budget, or not intentionally low budget. No, I don't think many people intend to have a low budget, but, like, there are certain things I think of B movies that are meant to be, like, denote this is of lesser quality in some way, that are just, like, kind of ever present in foreign movies because they just do things a different way. And I don't think that necessarily inherently...
I might be wrong about this, but I always thought that B movies were mostly because the budget was low.
I think that's often a common factor.
I think it might be...
I don't know what the budget for
B is the reason
was.
why it's called a B movie, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I'm sorry.
I always thought it was a grade. I thought it was always like, all right, this movie gets an A. This movie gets a B. Like...
Oh.
I don't know.
I didn't think that was it.
I could be
Why
totally
are
making
they
that up.
called B movies?
And it's just a t-shirt that has the entire text of B movie on it is the first Google search results or something.
It's literally defined as a low budget film.
There you go. I made it up. I don't actually know what the budget for Suspiria was.
But you can also I'm reading like you can also lift this out of the B movie category by just calling it an art house film.
I certainly feel like this film's pretty arty.
Oh, it's definitely real arty.
Yeah.
Not fake arty.
I guess if do you have anything else you want to say before I list off a bunch of random Suspiria facts at you?
If I think of it, I'll come up with it at the end.
Okay.
So go for it.
I already read to you about the origins of the story. I read to you about the fact that it's part of a trilogy. Let's see. The actress who played Mater Suspiriorum, aka like the old decrepit Helena Marcos, that she was uncredited. Her name is Leela Savasta, but she was uncredited because she was a 90-year-old ex-hooker that Dario Argento found on the streets of Rome and put her in the movie.
He was just like, you look hideous. Get in my movie.
You're perfect for this role.
Why don't you get out of my nightmares and into my film?
What? The central building that they used for exterior shots, that big red exterior of the school, which I think is gorgeous.
It is.
That's a place called the Haus zum Walfisch, which is, I guess, the whale house. And it's in Germany. You can find it. I had another note here that I thought was interesting. Where did it go? Udo Kier, who played Dr. Mandel, was added to the role 2 days before they left for filming in Germany to go back to Rome for interiors. He agreed to the part, but at the time he knew almost no English, and he could not memorize the lines. So that entire scene, there's someone just off camera behind him and Jessica Harper, the actress who plays Susie, who's feeding him his lines. He's repeating them, and then his voice got dubbed over by a different voice actor. And he said, if you had asked me at the time what I was saying, I would not have known. So
okay.
He was saying English, but he didn't know what he was saying.
Right, it's kind of like the spaghetti western thing.
Yeah. The American distributors of the film cut the movie down against Argento's wishes, and I'm not sure if that footage was ever added back in later. I'm not sure if they ever made a director's cut, or if it's, different in Italy or Europe. I'm not sure if the version that I have seen is the full movie or not. I have a very old DVD copy, so certainly American distributed, so almost certainly the one that I own is not a full version, but I do wonder if they've done a director's cut.
In 2017, a 35mm print was discovered.
Oh, shit! Uncut. Make that director's cut! I want to see it. I do wonder what was cut out, and if that would address any of the people who do feel like there's not enough story for them. But
the Chicago Cinema Society is excited to announce that we have discovered an uncut Italian 35mm print of Suspiria.
What?
The print was rescued from an Italian cinema that had closed down, and the print has gone untouched in their storage since 1977 or 78.
Oh my God.
After a brief inspection to assess the overall condition of the print, it appears as if it has only been screened a handful of times at most.
Oh, wow.
The print is in excellent physical condition with no substantial wear, uncut heads and tails, minimal fading, and no vinegar syndrome. Once we had the print in our film archive, we then made a careful inspection to determine which version of Suspiria we had obtained. We were stunned to find that the print is a completely uncut 6-reel print with a runtime of 98 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
This discovery comes on the heels of a remake that is... Okay, we don't need to talk about that.
That's exciting. Maybe that means we're in for a director's cut in the near future.
You will be able to see the uncut...
Uh-oh.
Friday the 13th!
Uh-oh!
You'll be able to see the uncut. There's uncunts. There's no cunts in it.
90% of the cast is gone.
Yeah. You will be able to see it on the big screen July 28th in New York City, September 16th in Nashville, October 14th in Brookline, Massachusetts. There's going to be a film forum in Seattle, October 26th and 27th. And there's going to be one in Los Angeles, and in the late fall, Music Box Theater in Chicago.
Put me on a plane. Anywhere.
I know. I'm kind of bummed that you missed the New York one, because that would have been the closest one to you.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you didn't. It's the 28th. Go.
Of this year, or 2017?
Oh, I guess it was 2017. Did they ever, did they ever do anything with it?
Maybe it's too soon? I don't know. Maybe we'll get one.
Yeah.
I have seen, I was going to bring this up also, but, just as in passing, but last year, Pulp and I did go see a print of the film at AFI Cinema in Silver Spring, Maryland. And we were really excited to go. It was a very big date night thing for us. That was when we first became a couple. That was one of the first things we immediately had in common, is that we both loved this movie. So we were very excited to go. And AFI Silver Spring is a swanky, artsy type theater that's all about cinema and film and not just sitting and watching a movie. And it was a kind of an event. And there were people in that theater not inappropriately laughing at things that weren't funny.
They thought it was a screening of Evil Dead or some shit.
Yeah, they thought it was a bad movie, and we're just laughing at when that scene I was talking about where you see what's her head get stabbed in the heart. People are laughing it up anytime someone was getting I don't know. They're just laughing at things that weren't funny, people's clothing and hair. I could hear people talking during the film, and I was really fucking pissed. That was a terrible experience, and if you're ever in that situation, don't be that person.
Yeah, dear God. I mean, don't be that person in any movie unless it's specifically something that calls for that. If you're at a screening of Rocky Horror Picture Show and people are all doing that shit, then do that, but don't be an asshole at the fucking theater. It really pisses me off. I was recently lamenting about this because I was trying to clean my house, and one of the things I do when I'm cleaning my house is I try to put on TV or something that I've already seen, so I don't have to focus on it, but I still have something to keep me company.
I do the same
thing.
So
a lot of the time I'll watch a horror film I've already seen or a horror film I don't care about just because I like the mood. And I was watching The Conjuring, which is one of the better modern horror films, I would say. At least for the major screen. And I was super bummed when I first went to see it, and I was just thinking about it because I've seen it a bunch of times now. But there were just people just screaming and laughing and just being ridiculous in that showing. And I missed so much of the dialogue the first time I saw The Conjuring. And the thing that makes me extra mad is I don't like to leave my house. I don't like to pay money. I left my house. I paid money. And then you're ruining this for me?
Yeah.
And then, the thing that extra irritates me about it is that, people walk through, people come in and they walk through the theater, and it's to make sure everything's okay. And it's you saw that and you were fine with it and you just left. Mm-hmm. Ugh, I don't know.
Yeah, that was like a real bummer.
That's my rant.
No, it's just, it was kind of shitty to see this. Like, I get that this is an older movie and it's like a cult movie and it's a, you know, whatever. Like, I get what it looks like and what it is, but like, please, like, don't. Like, it's not funny. It's not a funny movie. It's not like, there might be moments where you might chuckle or, you know, but like.
I laughed at the bat. Yeah. I'm allowed to do that in my own home.
I laugh at the guy who's got the, like, they make a couple jokes at the expense of the guy that has, like, the bad, like, fucked up teeth prosthetic in his mouth. Mm-hmm. Where, you know, he turns and he's like.
Yeah.
Or, like, whatever his dumb smile. Like, that's obviously supposed to be funny. You can laugh at that. Like, that's a joke.
Oh.
You know what's not a joke? When someone has 70s hair because it was the fucking 1970s. What do you think?
Yeah.
Like,
there was one thing that I thought about a lot, and I've, like, thought about it since. I don't know why. I think it's because I'm just, like, so into dogs. I just love dogs. The dog stuff, where there's a blind piano player, and he has a seeing eye dog, and it's a Doberman, yeah?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm seeing in my mind. It might have been a shepherd, though. What? Oh, now thinking about it, it was a shepherd.
It might have been a shepherd. Brown muzzle, but.
Suspiria dog. It's a shepherd.
Okay.
So, anyway. That scene where the dog is, like, obviously possessed and turns on his owner when they're leaving. For some reason, like, that entire scene and the way it's shot and everything just really reminded me of The Omen.
It reminded you of what?
The Omen.
Oh, yeah, I can see that. I can totally see that. I made a note, or I read, and I almost made a note and then didn't, but it was about how that, like, the scene where they're doing that and the camera does, like, a swooping down or whatever, was the most, like, technically difficult shot they did in the whole movie, because it's, like, literally, like, on a rope, and they just let it go.
Wow.
They didn't use, like, a crane to track it down or anything like that, and they had to get their, like, trajectory just right, and, like, figure out, like, is this going to be going too fast? Is it going to be going too slow? Are we, like, where do we need to have people standing to get this right?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of creativity. Now we have all these, like, very standard ways of doing it.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a reason why I also like movies that are a little bit older from, like, that period of time in, like, the 80s and stuff. Because if you really, like, there were a lot of people making movies because they were just really passionate about making movies and they didn't have budget and they had to, like, be creative and figure out how to do things for themselves. And a lot of that resulted in practical effects as we know it and, like, made this, like, for a brief time made that, like, the standard. And that was really effective and people were doing cool creative things. And now we just don't care anymore.
I also had Rosemary's Baby come to mind for me some of the times. Mm-hmm. Have you seen that?
I saw it years ago. I know I've seen it, but, like, I
feel like you might, as a revisit, as with you as you are now, I think you might like it.
Okay.
A lot of people think it's very boring, but I feel like you're the kind of person who could see past that.
Probably. I mean, I don't remember disliking it. I do know that I have always had, like, a deep-seated fear of pregnancy, and I think that's why I'm afraid to go back to it, is I'm afraid it's going to make me even more scared. I used to, like, this is...
Well, if you have a really, really vivid dream of having sex with the devil, and then you get pregnant, just get rid of that thing.
Here's something that I think is cool, and I noticed this and didn't think anything about it until I read that, and I was like, oh, this makes sense. Argento originally wanted the girls at the school to be between 11 and 14, but his distributors were like, fuck no. So he had to age them up to between 18 and 21.
Okay.
So, although he changed their ages, he kept their behavior juvenile. So that's why you see a lot of the interactions between the girls is very like, and they're, like, sticking their tongues out at each other, and they're picking at each other. They're literally acting like
that's
kids.
Not... Yeah, but I feel like...
That's... What?
I feel like it's kind of normal.
It is kind of normal. But I remember there was, like, a scene kind of early on. Susie, she spends, like, one night living with, like, Olga or something. The woman whose, like, entire apartment looks like your screen behind you. Mm-hmm. And
This screen I'm trying to, like, hide my home behind? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's not... Sorry, I guess I take it back. It's not in that apartment, but later they're in the changing rooms getting ready for dance class, and she and Sarah start bickering, and they like, I was like, this is kind of embarrassing and weird. Like, I feel weird watching this because they're acting like kids. And then I was like, oh, no, that's because they're supposed to be. That was a choice. I get it now. And also, in, like, a lot of the production design, they made things taller and higher than normal. Like, the door handles are all at, like, a higher place to, like, reduce the actresses down in size and make them seem younger and smaller.
Huh. That's cool.
Yeah. I thought that was neat, too. And when I went back and watched it, I was like, oh, shit, you're right. I think
I might have to see it again.
In terms of, like, thinking about this as being inspired by fairy tales and stuff like that, and knowing that both the writers came at it from, like, a perspective of, like, I heard this story about blanks and blank witchcraft in schools and blank, blank, blank. That makes a lot of sense, and I think it's a neat way to do that. I like it.
It is. I like it.
And then the very last thing that I guess not the very last thing. The second to last thing was just a note about how at that time and at that place, Suspiria was really groundbreaking for having the majority of the cast be female. Mm-hmm. There's like 4 men in the entire movie. 5 if you count the cab driver that picks her up at the beginning. And everyone else is female. And that was, I guess, like a big deal at the time that it came out for that place in time. And as far as another production aspect that I thought was really cool, in 1975, the Technicolor U.S. dye transfer plant was closed, and Technicolor moved to being done with Eastman only processors. So in 1977, the final dye transfer printer left in Rome, so like the only one left, was used by Dario Argento to make the prints for Suspiria. And then a few years later, the print ceased making dye transfer, like, forever. So it was, like, one of the last films, if the last film to be made with that particular method of Technicolor. And because they were phasing it out, the film was considered, like, that kind of film was, like, outdated. Like, it was like using expired film for your movie. And that's part of why the colors are so bright. It's a combination of the equipment that they use being, like, old, kinda, and then also, like, on the, like, conscious efforts on the lighting crew and the director and stuff. It will all, like, combine to make this really, like, vivid film. Like, it's one of the last of its kind to be made in that particular way.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah, that's really, really cool.
Somebody out there is screaming at me and telling me that I said something wrong, but that's okay.
Don't assume that. And if they aren't, fuck them.
Fuck them.
Just fuck them.
All right.
All right.
Thank you for talking to me about my favorite movie. I'm glad you liked it.
Thanks for talking to me about my favorite movie. I'm glad you liked it.
I hope if anybody else out there watched these movies, if you liked or disliked them, like, please reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you either way. Where our feelings are not going to be hurt if you did not like Martyrs and Suspiria.
I don't know. Mine might be hurt.
Mine would probably be hurt too, but I didn't want to say anything.
That's so on brand for us. It's fine. I'll just cry by myself afterwards.
No, it's whatever. I mean, I don't really like
video chat just to cry.
I don't really like it that much either. You're right. It's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. You're right. It's not a very good movie. It's a great film, both of them. So if you didn't like them, we'll be sad. But still tell us and tell us why. Yeah. Just be nice about it. Be gentle.
Well, thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the special episode. We might do a film exchange like this again in the future.
Yeah, especially if you guys actually watch/listen to it.
Yeah. Thank you again. I don't know how else to wrap this up. Anything else you want to say?
Nope, we're done. Bye.
All right, bye.